Hola, you amazing artists, and welcome to the studio. So today we are doing another question that all artists should ask themselves, and today we're going to talk about money.
Oh my God, how much time do we have today?
So the question for today is, what is my relationship with money? This is an important question, you guys. In fact, this is one of those questions that I'm like, you should be asking yourself this before you even attempt to do this whole artist career thing. The truth is that a lot of us grow up with really bad habits when it comes to money, really bad money mindsets. It's just something that's prevalent in the world. I'm sure you don't have to think too far back to hear yourself or someone else talking about money in a way that is disempowering. So I want to make a disclaimer here in this video. What you're going to hear in this video is our opinion on money. Everybody has a different opinion. Everybody has a different perspective, and you go with whatever works for you. Money is one of those things that kind of ties itself into everything. And especially if you're doing this art career thing, you know that that whole perspective is so out there that like you really have to think about this. So when Clee and I think about this, the first thing we do is think about, okay, what was our perspective growing up when it came to money? What was the influences that we experienced in life?
My money mentality growing up was complicated. I watched my mom, struggle with money.
Rafi growing up with his family and their money mentality. The best way to describe that is that it was a complete clusterfuck.
Even though it wasn't said, there was this level of shame and, personal judgment that came with, this idea that we were struggling with money.
You have to work hard, you have to sacrifice, you got to basically bring yourself to the brink of death in order to make just enough to survive.
I grew up knowing survival mode, even though that's not what my mom wanted. But it's not about what you say to a kid, right? It's about how the environment feels and what goes unsaid.
My family had a jewelry store, and that all sounds great and stuff, except my dad, for some reason, decided he wanted to open up a video store. So it was like I was working at the video store, working at the jewelry store, going to school. I got paid maybe $20 a week. I remember getting my first minimum wage job and thinking that I was rich.
I would say that my relationship to money was very survival based, and there was a feeling of lack of worthiness, unfortunately, that I think a lot of people probably grow up with.
I mean, all I know is that Rafi and Clee ignored us for like 2 years.
Yeah, because they were busy trying to make money.
Yeah. My childhood was ruined!
Now, in my experience, things don't get much better after you leave the house and leave that influence, right? Depending on what kind of friends you grew up with.
In my 20s was like a complete effing mess. I identified as one of those individuals who just never had money. There's this look of oh yeah, Clee, that's my friend who doesn't have money for stuff, let me help her out.
I also had the crappy belief of if I ever make a lot of money, then something's going to happen. So I would, my car would get towed. Yeah, just right after I made there'd always be this this magical aura of keeping me. The other question I think about is, what were the influences of friends, new people that you got introduced to in your life? I had a friend who had very amazing money mentality. This guy always had money, and I was always broke. And then little by little, just from hanging out with him, things in my life changed and I started to make more money. In my 30s, I became a corporate trainer. And at that point, I was making a lot of money. I was making a lot of money. I was making so much money that I had checks, non-deposited checks sitting in a drawer, and I'd forget about how much money I had. You would think that I would have been less worried about money. When you have it, you're going to worry about losing it or when it's going to run out. And when you don't have it, you're going to worry about the fact that you don't have it. Unfortunately, I still had a lot of really bad thoughts when it came to money, and it just kind of caused everything to fall apart. I had a successful job, I had 2 cars, I had all this stuff and whatever, and then everything fell apart. I lost everything. Basically, my life was over, right? You lose your job, you lose all your money, everything is gone, your life is over. Even my cars broke down. And at one point, I remember getting up and thinking to myself, like, wait a second, I'm still here. And all of this weight that I've put on my shoulders over the years of like trying to attain this thing, mostly so that other people thought that I was successful or, wealthy or handsome, worthy, whatever, that all of that stuff was gone.
In your 20s, well, why don't you be more responsible and hold down a job and stick with a job? And I had this like intolerance of crappy environments. So like I would job hop. Got so painful emotionally and physically that I would say that I reached a breaking point where I was making myself physically ill and emotionally drained because I was still in survival mode and I wasn't seeing it.
Listen, if you're so stressed out about money, why don't you all just print some up on your printers and then all agree to accept each other's printed up on your printer money? And if everyone did that, then there would just be no big deal, right?
That is such a good idea.
I'm full of them.
It's also tied into this emotional thing because you grow up with your parents stressing out about money, arguing about money. You get yelled at because you want something and it's like, we don't have enough money for that, or, all that stuff. What do you think? Money grows on trees. There are all these like sayings and all this bullshit. This idea that like if you do have money, then you're an evil person, or that if you do have money, you're happy. It's so effing confusing. And the problem is that most of us don't get taught how to look at money or how to like really, really describe to ourselves, well, how do I want to feel about this thing, this piece of paper that intrinsically has no effing value whatsoever other than the value that we deem that it has. This is an experience that some of us have when it comes to life, when it comes to finances, when it comes to everything, where you hit that dark night of the soul. And this was my dark night of the soul. Luckily for me, on a parallel journey was Clee, and I made some decisions to be someone that was completely different than who I had been up to that point. Then decided to go on a road trip. Not a road trip, basically live in my car and travel the country. And that's around the time that I met Chu. And the whole point of that was to rely on something other than a steady paycheck.
I quit working regular jobs and pursued a career of creative self-employment with you.
Till I jumped in the Explorer and drove through the night. People said I was crazy, some said I was right.
Talk about getting on an emotional roller coaster. Like now you're completely in control, which can be like really liberating or really scary.
Yeah, it's Clee to bring it to you. Let these fat beats flow on through you. Dance a bit if the feeling moves you. Life is fun, don't let fools fool you. Travel in the nation, brave creators. We be hugging alligators. Might not shower for a couple of days, but it helps us keep the bugs away.
There was a lot of personal stuff tied to self-worth and doing versus being. And oh man, if you want to like unpack how you see yourself, be self-employed.
This idea of security, right? It's a bullshit idea of security. People sacrifice and work jobs that they hate.
You can do this like creative free spirit thing if you're okay with being a starving artist, right? And that was an idea that hung on for a really long time because it was like, do, and that's tied to how valuable you are, how useful you are, what are you worth? Externally focused. And that can be a really damaging metric to measure yourself against.
And I'm not saying that that's everybody's life. There's a lot of people out there that love their job, but for the most part, that's the shit that's normalized. And that's the thing that people think is like, that's responsible. That is a very responsible adult.
Your survival mentality, your obsession with money is what's distracting you. You can be in or out of survival mode regardless of what your circumstances are. And if you can wrap your mind around that, then you're going to feel a real solid sense of freedom and security. But you're not going to snap your fingers and do that. That's going to be a process. Are you wanting to and willing to embark on that? And for me, the answer was yes, because things had just gotten so uncomfortable that I had to make a shift. And I'm really grateful for that.
The experience of being on the road is actually the thing that really transported us into living the life that we live now when it comes to our money mindset and not being in survival mode. Being on the road really showed us the detriment of being in survival mode. And again, this is our perspective based on our life experience, but there were some very powerful lessons that we learned being on the road that allowed us to do this whole art career thing. Those are feelings. Those don't live outside of you. Those live inside of you. So whatever it is that you have around you, it doesn't matter. You're going to experience those feelings no matter what. And so you have to approach those feelings and not the thing, right? Everything else is a Band-Aid. Oh, if I get this someday, everything is someday. Someday I'll have this and then I'll be happy. And it's like, no, you got to be happy now, right? And who gives a shit if you get that thing or not?
I learned that money is made out of paper.
Very specific kind of paper that drives humans crazy.
Toilet paper. That drives humans crazy. Toilet paper.
Yeah, like that.
People go crazy on the internet buying toilet paper.
It's true.
A lot of people out there say, I'm willing to do anything to be an artist. I'm willing to do anything to be an artist, right? If you're willing to do anything, then do it. Get out there in whichever way you possibly can, however it is that you possibly can. Do festivals, do art walks, set up on a sidewalk, do whatever it is that you can do to consistently put yourself out there as much as possible. Do it online, do it in person, but do it all.
Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it.
The second part of that is that it's pretty likely that you're going to turn your creative career into a trap of misery if you take survival mode with you.
Don't turn your art into something that is all about making money, because the thing that is going to attract people to you and is going to sell your art is that you stay yourself.
All right, so this is usually when the nerves set in a little bit. You feel anything?
A little bit. I'm like, what needs to be done?
Yeah. Go do what you gotta do.
See what's what.
I'm gonna walk around and look cute.
You got to be really clear about that, because once money gets involved, you want to do this for a living, then we're going to take all those habits of our job that we hate. We hate everything about our jobs. And we're going to take that because it's attached to money and bring it right over here. Your relationship with money, your mindset is the first thing that you should, before you even think of, well, how do I do this art career? You really, really, really have to work out your relationship with money.
I decided do whatever I can to not have my creative process intrinsically woven into my financial situation.
My mindset changed when... What the? Where's this hand coming from?
One of the main impacts of being in survival mode that I have noticed throughout my life is that when you are worried, when you're in that place of worry and you're in survival mode, you get pretty desperate, you know, and even if you're not showing that desperation outwardly, it just kind of like comes off of you like a bad pheromone. Desperation makes us really dumb. We make really stupid decisions, and we come off as desperate to everybody we meet. That's a really great way to repel every single possible collector that is out there. So like, if you need to get a corporate side hustle, then get a corporate side hustle. Do whatever it is that you can. If you could attack it with your mentality to get to a place where it doesn't matter if you have money or you don't have money, you're not going to worry about it, great.
Certain creative things that I do, they're not showing that ROI, that return on investment in money terms.
A little clearer.
So if that means that I have to provide financial security for myself in another way, there's no shame in that. and a lot of people have heard me say this on live streams and things recently, that if you have to have a corporate side hustle or a freelance gig or a thing that generates income so that you remove the stress from your creative process, there's no shame in that. In fact, there's a lot of freedom in that. A lot of people want to not have that side hustle and do art full time, but I would ask you, like, how much pressure are you putting on yourself, or might you put on yourself, to generate a certain level of income that you might suck the joy out of that creative process? That is a really important thing to be looking at.
Let's say that you had real advice for these people that are watching this. If you could sum it up in one word, what would it be?
One word, huh?
That's more than one word. That was three. 3 words. You said one word, huh?
Well, I'm 2.
That's still 3 words.
I see so many people get down on themselves because they think that they don't have what it takes because they've been trying to do this for a couple of years and they haven't been able to quit their job. And it's like, no, you got to have a plan. One of the most important things you want to do is know how much money you need to make in order to be able to support yourself. And I can't tell you how many times I've talked to some artists out there that I'm like, okay, well, how much do you need to make every month in order to be able to pay your bills? And they're like, oh, and it's like, come on, if you're going to run an art business, you need to know what's coming in and what's going out, and, be smart about your money. If you get a big score, a big show, don't just like blow the money because you're like, oh, this is great. Like actually plan for the times where things dip. I think it's really important to say that, like, Clea and I don't have this figured out, and the worry honestly never goes away. The best thing you could do is just kind of come up with a system that works for you as far as like financial worries. Money is so ingrained in our society as far as like success and status and all these other things, and honestly, it's going to kind of seep into everything. Money.
Listen, that's really great, but I don't think you can sing that on this channel.
When I get to that place where I'm worried, the most positive and powerful thing I could do is go back to when I lost everything and realize, like, well, then I lose everything, right? You kind of play it out. What if I can't pay this bill? Well, then I don't pay this bill. Most importantly, instead of going into the woe is me, oh no, everything's falling apart, you go into a place where it's like, all right, well, what am I going to do? How am I going to behave? Let's say that does happen. Am I going to burst into flames? No. Am I going to figure something out? Yes. If you trust that no matter what comes, you're going to figure it out and you're going to be okay. That is paramount. Because if not, you're at the whims of your bank account. Just back to, now I feel good. Now I'm panicking. Now I feel good. Now I'm panicking. And honestly, that's kind of how everybody's been trained to live in the world, is that like when things are good. And everybody's chasing a buck, chasing money. How can I get more? How can I get more? Because they're constantly panicking and worried that they're not going to have enough.
So I think Rafi and Clea should start paying us.
Oh, great idea.
Yeah.
Then we can be stressed out about how much money we have.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
What is your value, your intrinsic value, and what it is that you're going to do if the shit hits the fan in a way that doesn't diminish you and your value. Just because you don't have money doesn't mean that you don't have any value.
The single most important thing I've learned about money is that it's just a metric. Like time and all the other metrics that we use to measure our external environment. And the most important thing in relation to who I am is that money has nothing to do with my self-worth and my value as a human being.
A lot of people don't think about what money means to them. They just don't think about what money means to them. They think about how much they want money and how they'll feel about themselves if they have money, right? So it's like, it's this weird, stupid relationship that people have with money that like, it's not like based on anything real. It's not real.
fear's going to come up. And when fear comes up, honestly, one of the most effective things I've been saying to myself is, it's okay. To know I'm okay regardless of the metrics that are out here, time, money, and health.
At this point in our lives, we're really thinking about what is the value with everything that we've experienced in our career, in our lives. I feel like Clea and I have experienced a lot in a very short amount of time. And it really makes us think of where is the real value in life? Like, is it money? Money is a byproduct of what you are doing, right? And really, it's a byproduct of anything that you're doing out there, whether it's a little bit of money or a lot of money. Untying the emotion from that. If you love your job, it's a great byproduct. If you hate your job, then you're constantly measuring up whether this byproduct is worth it. We have a finite amount of time here, right? So if we're going to have value, that's where the value is. How am I spending my time, right? Not like I'm making money. How am I spending my time? Doing your art, and you are enjoying the process, and you're being true to yourself, and you're creating what it is that you want to create, then that byproduct, that's worth it. If you are doing stuff that you think you're supposed to do because this might make you money, and you're plotting and scheming, because that's what happens when you get in survival mode. You're constantly plotting and scheming. How do I do this? How do I make more money? How do I blah, blah, blah? This isn't working out. I should quit this. I should do more of this. I should do more of that. Then it's not worth it. The amount of money that you make is a direct correlation between how much you give. It really is. When you are genuinely giving, the act of giving in itself fills you, right? And so you don't want anything in return. Would I give my time and energy to this person even if I knew that I wasn't going to get anything out of that transaction? That I wasn't going to get any money, that I wasn't going to get any recognition, that I wasn't going to get any fame, that I wasn't going to get any brownie points? Would I give this human being the time and energy? Right? And you got to be really honest with yourself. Would I put this out there and share it with people because I think just the act of sharing it, there's value there? And I'm sorry to tell you that if you are feeling like a martyr, then it means that you are trying to get something out of it. That's the truth. Or you're feeling fulfilled by the act of putting it out there. And that's it, you guys. I know that this was a long video, and this is a tough subject to talk about, so we try to be as authentic and as real as ourselves as possible. You may agree, you may disagree. I mean, really, at the end of the day, your perspective is what matters in your life. I think it's important to distinguish here that we all want to make money. We want to make money doing what we're doing. We want to be able to support ourselves. That is very important. I want to say that there's a fine line, though, between being ruled by money and ruling your financial situation. And I think that that's where a lot of this video comes to as far as mindset. And I want to give a big shout out to the Rogues. The Rogues are the reason that these videos are possible. And hey, Rogues, we'll be doing the extended interviews because we recorded a lot of ourselves talking about this particular subject on Patreon later on this week. Hey, you guys, I'm interested in hearing what your perspective is. What are your thoughts on money, and what are your thoughts on actual value in life? And I want to thank you guys so much for being here. You guys are absolutely freaking amazing. I totally adore you. Hopefully you got a lot out of this video. And hey, if you're watching us for the first time and you like this video, go ahead and like it and then subscribe right over here. And other than that, yeah, I'm done for the day. Adios.